he's woke up early this evening. We'd like to thank you for coming out this evening. Ms. Doris Moore Bailey, will you come and introduce the sponsors, please?
Okay, evening has already been said. I would like to acknowledge the fact that Lakeland Now is here, the Ledger's here, and WLKF is here. Is that live tonight?
No.
Okay. All right then. I thought it was live. Okay. So anyway, we'd like to acknowledge the sponsoring organizations. If you're here, that would be the Holly Diggs Neighborhood Association. You understand? The representative from Holly Diggs, the NAACP, Mr. Arias, the Gladys Leggett Neighborhood Association, Ms. Marsh Chastain, and I represent the National Congress of Black Women. And so we welcome you to this forum, and this is our moderator for the evening, President of Lakeland Branch NAACP, Reginald Arias.
Thank you. As we get started, Mr. Ward, would you lead us in a word of prayer, please?
We ask everyone to bow your heads. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for all things. We thank you first and foremost for being God all by yourself. We thank you for this opportunity for the community to come together and be cordial with each other and find out what our issues are collectively. That we can take them back again with prayer and console you and counsel, get good counsel from you, God. We pray for our candidates tonight that they would speak with clarity, with simplicity, with no hidden agendas, God. We pray that every association that's here, every reporter that's here, every individual in the sound of my voice would have an open mind and heart to hear with us that these candidates have to say concerning us, your people. We do all this in the humblest way we know how. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. The timekeeper for this event will be Mr. Harry Bryant. The rules of engagement. This is a nonpartisan forum. The mission of the NAACP is to present events such as these to enlighten the citizens on what's happening with local government and to encourage the participation of the citizens. This evening, the forum centers on the Lakeland City Commissioner's race for Northwest Lakeland with a term of 4 years. The format will be such. We have an opening statement by each candidate for 3 minutes. There will be questions from the sponsors and from the NAACP, and will last for 2 minutes. Each candidate will receive the same question. Then we will have a question period from the audience, and there may be some other questions that the moderator has received from the community to ask. At that point in time, the candidates at closing will have 2 minutes for their closing statement. Introduction of the candidates as follows: Mr. Alberto A.J. Rodriguez, Mr. Ricky Schauer, and the incumbent, Mr. Philip Walker. The order will be as such. The first opening statement will be by Mr. Rodriguez, followed by Mr. Schauer, and then by Mr. Walker. If you choose to use the podium, you may do so, or you may remain at your seat. Mr. Rodriguez.
I'll do a little bit of both. I'll stand at myself. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alberto Rodriguez, as I stated before, but all of you can refer to me as AJ. I've got 3 short minutes to basically tell you everything about myself, so I'll try to keep it short and sweet. So to start off, I was born about 1,200 miles south of this very location, down in the Caribbean island of Puerto Rico. And from there, I lived about 3 years, and then me and my family, we moved to New York, where we lived for around 7 years. I'll be honest with all of you, I do not miss the cold. I'm glad that I live here in Lakeland, Florida. But after 9/11, my family, we moved from Long Island, New York, and we moved down here. And the reason we moved down here was mainly because it was in between Tampa and Orlando. But at the same time, we came down here on vacation before when we lived in New York. And we, let's just say we fell in love. We kind of got infatuated with the warm temperate climate, the clear blue skies, and the shining, bristling lakes that Lakeland has to offer. But most importantly, we fell in love with the community here. We realized it was a family-friendly community that was better to raise families as opposed to going to Tampa and Orlando. Throughout the years, I got to see Lakeland grow before my very eyes. I got to see it go from a city of 70,000 people to a city which is now bustling over 100,000 citizens. I graduated from Catholic school up in Markham, St. Anthony's Catholic School. I graduated from there, and I was given the privilege and honor of serving, or not serving, but going to Harrison School of Visual and Performing Arts, where I graduated in 2011. Now I'm currently on Polk State College's a business program. I'm majoring in business administration. I do that part-time. I currently work with the Chamber of Commerce, the Puerto Rican Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Polk County, where I am the administrative assistant. And I'm also currently part of the Hispanic Advisory Board to Mayor Howard Woody. Now, a little bit of why I'm running real quick. Long story short, keep it short and sweet. I have a vision and dream for Lakeland that I feel you and I share, and that is to leave behind a grander Lakeland, not just for ourselves, but for our posterity, so that our children and our children's children can inherit a much better Lakeland for the future. And that's why I'm running. I want to be part of the process for progress, and if you give me the honor and the support to be your next Lakeland City Commission, I'm not going to promise to be the perfect commissioner, but I will promise you'll have a ear at City Hall that won't try to shove anything down your throat and will listen to your every single concern. I will be available 24/7. Thank you.
Shower.
My name is Ricky Shara, and Mr. Rodriguez, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you have the only American flag in the room, and I would like to get everyone to, let's say, the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. If you don't mind, I'll pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. I care about this country. I care about this county. I care about this city. This is where I was born. I don't know any better. I've never lived up north. I've been up north. I have seen snow, and I realized I don't want to live there. I think I live in the most beautiful place on earth as it is. But I wouldn't be running if I didn't have a desire, because you know I have run before, and I have a desire in me to serve the people. And if you believe in something, you never quit. And the day I quit, they're probably going to be shoveling dirt in my face or on the. But if you believe in something strong enough, you don't quit. I have been blessed with 7 grandchildren. My greatest gift as a parent is raising 4 children that has given me 7 grandchildren. And I want to see them grow up and live in this community and want to stay in this community and not move off somewhere. I have 2 of my grandsons, as we speak, are on the FFA. They went to the convention, and they're visiting colleges up north, agricultural colleges. And if that's what they want to do, that's great. But I'm afraid once they move off, they won't come back to this community. I have a friend of mine right now. His daughter just won the Bright Future Scholarship for Lakeland Senior High. She has Harvard. She has Pennsylvania. She has other colleges that is recruiting her and wanting her to be able to come visit them or go to school there. And Jim told me the other day, he said, Ricky, he said, I'm scared. He said, I'm afraid once Emily leaves, she'll never come back. So if I'm elected, I want to be a voice for the people of the commission. I want to be a voice to the people in the Northwest community. One time I asked Mr. Fields, were we getting our fair shake in the Northwest community? And he said that and then some. And we need to continue to make that possible. If I'm on the commission, I will continue to make that happen and make this a better community. My name is Ricky Shara, and I love this community, and I'd love to be your city commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Philip Walker, candidate for re-election for the Northwest District City of Lakeland. Born and raised here in Lakeland, matter of fact, right here in this community. Growing up, of course, in this community, matriculated through the various schools in this community as well. Graduated Morris Brown College undergraduate school, as well as Rollins College with a master's degree. Father, husband, and of course, a business owner for over 25 years, Allstate Insurance Agency in North Lakeland. Also serving in the past as a Lakeland police officer, serving on many boards throughout our city, currently on the Good Shepherd Hospice Board, Salvation Army Board, the Schools and McKeel Academy Board, and some other committees, of course, that serve as well throughout the city. Now, why am I asking you to vote for me again? I do ask that you vote for me again for your representative of the Northwest District. But I think because in the last 5 years I've proven myself. I've proven to make sure that we do the right thing to connect the district that I represent here with City Hall. When I came into this position some 5 years ago, there was a disconnect. And we made sure that we connect with the various neighborhood groups throughout this particular corridor of our city to make sure that they had an ear gate, which is me, to make sure City Hall understands the needs and the problems of the Northwest District. I again ask for your vote. I hope that you would do that and share your vote with me come next Tuesday, November 3rd. Now, my platform has three particular, issues that I'd like to make sure that we continue. One, of course, being to maintain focus on the quality of life that we need for not only the Northwest District, but all citizens of our city. Also support economic development, where we can create, jobs for those that live here in our city by partnering with different groups such as LEDC, Lakeland Economic Development Council, the Lakeland Area Chamber of Commerce, and others. And last, of course, support our youth programs, youth initiatives. As you all aware, we've had a problem in our city here in the last year and a half with youth gang violence. And we created a youth gang task force to make sure we could take care of that situation. And we did that by partnering with others as well throughout this city with Lakeland Police Department, of course, community-based organizations, of course, business partners as well. And those 8 murders that we had throughout the last year and a half were all solved. And we now have, of course, meeting as we do as a gang task force committee to make sure we keep our fingers on the pulse to take care of situations in our city. Well, we partnered with the Polk County School Board recently to make sure programs such as the early, warning system is in place to make sure those young children who are having problems and struggling in school throughout the middle schools where most of the action is taking place to recruit those for youth gang violence is taken care of. So again, Philip Walker, your candidate for re-election for City Commissioner, City of Lakeland, I ask for your vote. I want your vote, and I expect your vote for next Tuesday, November 3rd. Thank you.
We will now start the round of questions, and the order will be for the first round, Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Shower, Mr. Walker. The second round of questions, Mr. Shower, Mr. Walker, Mr. Rodriguez. And the third round, Mr. Walker, Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Shower. The first question will come from the National Congress of Black Women, from Mr. Rodriguez. And by the way, as I mentioned earlier, each candidate will get all questions, will get a chance to answer each question. It will be 2 minute answers for each question. Thank you.
Okay, the first question for each of you, and I'll start with you, Mr. Rodriguez. What is the most pressing problem that you see in the city of Lakeland which has inspired you to run for the city commission seat for the Northwest District? And how do you feel about changes that could be done positively in the community? Or how can you affect change? And that question is for all three.
The most pressing issue that the city of Lakeland, in my personal opinion right now, that the city faces is leadership. Strong leadership in the city commission. There are a lot of issues that the city is facing that over the past few years have been handled poorly. People haven't been taking a stand on certain issues. People have been a little wishy-washy here and there. Many of our commissioners don't even meet with many of the department heads of the city city. So I personally believe that the biggest issue that the city of Lakeland faces is leadership. And I want to be given that honor and privilege to be your next city commissioner, to prove that I could be the strong leader that the city of Lakeland not only deserves, but it expects from its city commissioners. Now, you can go to my website to find out what my resume is. But just the idea, the fact that I actually have a website, I've gone the extra mile where you can look me up and see where my platform stands. It's not bullet points. You can see it in complete detail. It's available to the public. I'm the only person up here right now that you can Google up and find out where he stands and why he stands on those positions. So if it comes down to the most pressing issue, I would say is leadership. That's what I think that the City Commission most desperately needs. Thank you.
I would kind of have to agree with AJ. There's been a disconnect between the city commissioners and department heads. If I'd have been on the commission, I would have not voted for the fire assessment fee, which did not pass. But then they turn around and raise your taxes by 19%. And I'm thinking, my goodness, that's one of the reasons I'm thinking, wow. And I've talked to some of the past administrators that have been in the city, and they used to go around the city manager and the mayor, and they would meet with different department heads and employees of Lakeland. And what are your concerns? How can we cut the budget? How can we save money and wring out waste? And there seems to be a disconnect because, as you all know, we went through a big sex scandal in the city of Lakeland. We're past that. I think with the new city manager that we're going to have coming on board, I think things are going to be a lot better with him, with Lakeland Police Department. But I want the people outside of Lakeland to know that Lakeland is strong and we're united. And I want to see our commissioners work that way. In the past 2 years, it seems like they just don't seem to gel. You've got to gel like a NASCAR pit crew to come together to win a race. I mean, you've got to work together, and I haven't seen that. If I'm on the commission, I want to work with the commissioners, be able to get things done and get things done in a positive way for the Northwest community and for the city of Lakeland as a whole. Thank you.
Well, certainly as your incumbent, as the one that has served you these past 5+ years in the capacity of City Commission, I would say that as we move forward here and we'll change the guard that we have, that's one of the things I think that's going to be pressing at this point. We are right now, of course, have an interim city manager, and of course, whether he becomes the city manager or not is one of the, I think, the key elements of making sure that we do the right thing for that position, realizing we're in a position only to set policies. That's what we do as city commissioners. We set policies, rules, regulations that we abide by as citizens here in our city. The city manager, of course, is the one that guides the helm. He's at the ship that guides the ship throughout the city and make sure certain things are done. Now, I've heard both of my opponents say that leadership is a critical problem, or that we don't meet with different ones. That's not true. We do meet with different ones. We have our different meetings, one-on-ones, as we call it, with our city manager. We have our meetings with our department heads that we take to make sure we do, and as well, when things are concerning a particular community, such as the one I live in, which, the Northwest District, I make sure I go to the department heads to find out what's the challenge. If I hear concern or issue that comes from a resident in this area, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm the resident. I'm the resident representative. I'm their ear gate. They bring the problem to me, and I make sure I can help get it corrected if so. So I think, moving forward, that we got to make sure that we find the right person to be at the helm to guide the ship for the city of Lakeland. As city commissioners, that's what we need to do, and that's what I expect to do to make sure we have the right person in place, whether it be the interim interim city manager Tony Delgado or someone else. Thank you.
The next question is coming from the NAACP that I represent. Job creation and workforce development are important to the economic vitality of a community, especially in Northwest Lakeland. What are your priorities in the job creation and workforce development arena, and how will they benefit this district? Mr. Shower, you first.
Well, you're going to have to partner and offer incentives and work with like LADA. As far as Amazon, we offered them an incentive to come and look what they've done. I mean, it's been they're part of actually right at Northwest. I mean, they're part of the community. And as far as we're just going to have to bring in and develop this neighborhood more at the Northwest and try to entice businesses to want to move here. We have a terrific, over next to where I'm at, we have an industrial park that Coca-Cola has relocated to, Penske's relocated to, and the businesses there are thriving. It's a great community. They talk about the gangs and the bad people that come in. It's not the people in the Northwest. It's people coming in the Northwest spreading their poisons. During the daytime, this is just a great community. And I believe that if we work with different corporations, we can bring corporations to the Northwest area. Thank you.
It takes partnership. It takes partnership that we have to deal with businesses, business partners to help create the different jobs. And of course, the city itself, as they have done and will continue to do, and I will continue to support initiatives to help bring about those different businesses or those particular corporations to our city. That's what we have done. That's what we've created. We have redeveloped reorganized our community development department in the city of Lakeland now. And we have what we call a business manager position. That person makes sure that the small business owners can have processes already that would help them get through, the process of getting businesses open. That person will also work with the larger corporations that, Mrs. Shires mentioned, one being, of course, Amazon and others that come to our city. So that's what I will continue to do, to make sure that we can do that. Not only that, but also to make sure that the information about these particular businesses, corporations, small businesses and such, are shared with the different neighborhood association groups when they meet. Now, in this particular neighborhood, especially so here in the Northwest District, we have, I think, more active neighborhood association groups in the Northwest quadrant of our city than any other quadrant in the city of Lakeland. And I will make sure that we continue to do that, to make sure they understand, they know what's going on, especially so when it comes to job creations and those particular jobs that come about. Incentives, that's what it's going to take to help bring about corporations and a partner that can be able to work with those businesses, or especially small businesses, to get through the hurdles, open up their doors to create jobs. Thank you.
I think it's really going to come down to reforming how we deal with impact fees here in Lakeland. But not just impact fees, but a more aggressive pro-business tax incentive plan that the City of Lakeland, the City Commission itself, could pass through an ordinance. I have that plan on my website at www.aj4lakeland.com. It's about making sure that businesses get exempted from property taxes and small business license taxes and sales taxes after they open up, just for small mom and pop shops, not for large corporations. But that way we can encourage entrepreneurs in the city of Lakeland to not only come here, but to open up shop here in Lakeland. We don't have those strong incentives. We have it in small specific areas through our enterprise zones, which are actually decided by the state. But I say, why should we wait for the state? It's our community. Let's take charge. Let's take leadership. And again, it comes down to having strong leadership, not only at the helm, but also in the city commission. And with all due respect, the current incumbent, he talks about partnering with several businesses, but what he won't tell you is that he's voted numerous times to not only levy higher property taxes, he's also increased the electric rates numerous times. And he even tried to shove down an unpopular $8 million fire impact tax down our throats. Now, that's not something he wants to actually talk about because it may be a non-issue in his eyes, but that is something he voted for. And I think if you're going to represent the people adequately, you should have voted no, because it was quite blatant that nobody wanted it. So if we're going to talk about partnering with businesses, we're going to need someone who actually knows what the people of Lakeland want and who's actually eager to listen to what they want, instead of just saying, that's great, there's record numbers at City Hall, I'm going to vote yes anyway. That's what I have to stand for.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next question will come from the Gladys Leggett Neighborhood Association. Mr. Chastain.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
My question really, I had a couple of them, but the first one is your opinion about this concept of the strong mayor versus quote, weak mayor form of government. And we want to know what do you have to say about this whole thing?
The order, Mr.
welcome.
I am not a proponent of the Strong Mayor Initiative. I made that known very well throughout the various forums that we've had. I've shared it among different ones that asked me about it. I do believe that the council manager form of government is one that I think has been proven throughout history here in our city, as well as over 70% of most municipalities throughout the state of Florida currently have and deal with, is one of which I think provides checks and balances, as we have, and I think it's one that we can continue to do. I don't believe, the strong mayor situation is of such that will warrant a change now in our current city government and for the people of our city. And that's where I stand, and I will continue to say that unless I'm proven different. And when that time comes, if we, of course, see it comes to the ballot and things change accordingly. But as far as, again, my particular position, Mr. Chastain and listeners of the audience, my stand is still with what we call a council manager form of government. And I think it's proven itself down through the years, Lakeland and many other cities, municipalities out of state. I still have time, and I want to rebut, if I can, about a situation that Mr. AJ shared.
No, not at this moment.
We can say at the end then, please?
Not at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
In terms of the council manager and mayor council debate that's being held in multiple forums here in the city of Lakeland, I personally favor the mayor council, or the strong mayor. And the reason I personally favor this, I personally want to state that, first of all, this is going to go on the ballot. This is something that the people should decide, not someone on the commission should decide. But me personally, I favor it for the very simple reason of that I believe the people should be able to hold their chief executive accountable. Now, some of us might think, well, we already have a mayor, that's our chief executive. No, it's not. The chief executive is someone who would take care of the day-to-day operations of the city. And that's what the city manager does, currently under our current system. Now, what the Citizens for a Strong Mayor, what they want to do is very simple. They want to be able to give the power of the people to elect that person. That person will be given the title of the mayor. The mayor will then have a city manager who's actually an assistant who helps him to take care of the day-to-day operations. That is someone he gets to appoint. But at the end of the day, that city executive is somebody who you and everyone else who can vote in Lakeland will be able to hold directly accountable. Now, I know we have city commissioners that will say that, hey, we already have checks and balances. Well, yeah, it may have worked in the past, but when it came to the worst case situation, because every system works great when things are flowing nice and fine. But when bad things happened, people wanted a certain city manager to leave. He didn't leave. He had to resign. We had a mayor who's currently in office today who was elected on the very concept of fixing those issues, but he couldn't do it because his hands were tied behind his back. So the reason I support this legislative movement is simply because I think that person who is in charge of the day-to-day operations of the city, I believe that person should be held accountable by the people. Thank you.
Mr. Shower?
Well, it's going to be one of the few times that I do agree with our incumbent. I think that having a strong mayor, a corporation, I was invited to come to the forum last Thursday evening, and I listened to the two guys debate. One was Dean Strickland, the other was a hired gun out of Tallahassee, which was a paid lobbyist. And he's getting paid to sell you on this strong mayor deal. He doesn't live here. He doesn't understand the problems of our community. I was so proud of our past mayor standing up and saying what he did. I wanted to go up and hug his neck. No, I think we have a great system with the current commissioners and the mayor and our city manager. Yeah, we have an interim city manager now. Will he remain interim? I don't know. But I guarantee you, he's only one vote away from getting, if things don't work out, he's only one vote away from getting fired and getting replaced. So, and I do think those checks and balances are in order now. I think the system is good. We're 100,000 people. We're too big to be a town, and we're too too little to be a small city. What works over in Tampa is not gonna work over in this area. So I am very much, and I personally feel like it's not gonna make the ballot. I think it's just gonna die out and go away, which it should. I think what we have now is to be able to get a good commissioner and commissioners that can work together on the commission to be able to work with the city manager to get things done for a positive Lakeland. Thank you.
The next question for the candidates will come from the Paul A. Diggs Neighborhood Association.
This question's for all three candidates. What form of mayor systems do you favor, and list three reasons why? Oh, we just answered.
Skip that one, yeah.
Sorry. Now that the prices of oil and gas are going down, would you push for the reduction in electric prices?
Rodriguez, I believe you're up.
In terms of electric prices, yes, I would push for the lowering of electric prices. They've been going up for quite a while, and that's fairly shocking when you consider Polk County's unemployment rate and its labor force participation rate. The state's one place, but where we are as a county and as a city is a whole nother place. We were hit a lot harder than the rest of the state. And the very idea that, hey, we're just gonna increase our electric rates because we have budgetary issues or because we need to cover certain costs is just absolutely ridiculous. We live in an area that is the most impoverished area in the state of Florida to begin with. We have some of the highest levels of unemployment in the state of Florida. The last thing you want to do is take more money out of people's pockets. You know, a lot of people, I know a lot of my personal friends, a lot of family members, my grandmother, for example, who lives on Social Security, they have to tighten their belts. Why can't the city tighten its belt a little more? Just a little more. I mean, I know that the city has done a great job at tightening its belt, but there's a lot more that can be done. And I know it can be done. We've seen other cities do a lot more than the city of Lakeland. So, yes, I would be in favor of lowering electric rates. Thank you.
Shara?
Actually, you know, I've got mixed feelings, but I know fuel's at an all-time low as far as I'm concerned. Because I remember a year ago, I was paying $5 a gallon almost for diesel to go in the trucks. And now it's $2.20, and I'm thinking that's a blessing from God. But there's these groups that want to see the coal-powered plant go away. Because natural gas right now is at an all-time low. You know, we buy fuel for the future. As you know, we've made some mistakes in the past. Jim Stanfield was able to get us out of a terrible contract when fuel was sky high. I think the fuel prices, I mean, as far as the electrical prices in Lakeland are some of the lowest in the state of Florida. You know, it doesn't feel that way when you're buying gas. I seen gas at Sam's a couple nights ago. I showed it to my wife. I said, look, $1.97. I'm thinking, wow. But yeah, my electricity bill, yeah, it seems like it's going up. But yeah, we're just getting through the summer months. Yeah, it was going to be up for the past months. You've got to be able to make sure you have the money. Solar, that's just a small part of Lakeland Electric. We've got to keep the coal power going. The natural gas skyrockets. We're going to have to fall back on coal. I know it makes some of the people in the Sierra Club not too happy, but doggone it, I just feel like, you know, the way the fuel prices are, they're putting money, it takes a lot of money to maintain these power plants. I have taken a tour and was very, very impressed to find out just what goes into it. I had no idea. And I'm thinking, my goodness, they're right. It does. And it is a blessing that we have lower fuel prices. But as far as the electrical going down, I think it's going to stay where it's at. Thank you.
In our past fiscal year, for those that have been following the Lakeland Electric budget situation, we've had lowered, I think at least twice, if I'm not mistaken, in the past fiscal year with our electric rates is concerned. Now, of course, you know, there's EPA regulations that we're contending with that makes, of course, some things that change and have to change because of the regulations that come about. But we've had that, and Lakeland sits at the residential, of course, rate that we all probably are concerned about as one of the lowest in our state and for public utility-owned utilities here in our state. So we're one of the lowest and have been in the lower tier for the last number of years I've served on this commission, on this dais. So we are one of the lowest. And do our favor doing what we can to keep the price lower? Yes, I do. But again, when it comes to operation business, and when you have to deal with EPA kind of regulations and deal with, of course, there's many things that have not been done to our utility as far as the upkeep is concerned as well. So that's some things that got to be done so we can make sure that utility stays functioning and be able to produce and give you the kind of electricity or the kind of power you need for this particular city where we live. And again, we have done that. That has been done, I know, at least in this past fiscal year, a couple of times where the rate has been reduced. Thank you.
The next question will come from the National Congress of Black Women. Ms. Moore Bailey.
Okay, this one's about consultants. You know, consultants, the city hire consultants all the time from outside of the city of Lakeland and pay them good monies. But however, the consultants that I want to talk about and have questions for each of you are the consultants who retire from the city of Lakeland. They enter the drop program and then they come back as a consultant to the city. So if they're in the drop program and they come out retirement somewhere about 90% times 5 years, that comes out to $500,000, $750,000 in retirement funds. So I want to know from each of you, how do you feel about the elimination of former employees coming into the city as a consultant, and some would call it double dipping? I don't know who's
First person up, Mr. Shire.
Well, if anyone wants to look at this paperwork that I have after the meeting, I know some people have already seen it in this room, but as Jackie Gleason said, how sweet it is. You get this big check, and after the 5-year drop program, then you draw your pension. Then you come back as a consultant, as our Parks and Rec, Bill Tinsley did, and there are some other names in these papers. You're welcome to read them. Is it right? No, it's not right. For some of the future police officers that's up in rank, I looked at what they're going to get from leaving the drop program, and my jaw hit the ground and saying, my goodness. I knew Republics had a great retirement plan, but man, like I said, how sweet it is. I mean, it's there in black and white. You look at it. You're welcome to take a look at these papers. And we need to change that. If they're going to stay with it, I mean, but once they go into the drop program, I don't think they should be able to come back as a consultant for the city of Lakeland, drawing their pension and still drawing a consultant's pay. That's just double dipping any way you look at it. If I'm on the commission, I'm not sure I can get enough votes to change it, but I would be in favor of changing that and having it looked into. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as the, I guess you call consultants, or those that come back or after they retire, having to be used or be able to have their skill sets to be used for the knowledge that they have, I think it's important that we keep that. You know, when people retire, their pension plan is frozen. They don't continue to get money from a retirement, money going into a retirement plan for them. That is frozen. So they don't continue to get those funds or get money put into their continuing retirement process. They don't get that. They just get, of course, a contracted salary for whatever skill set they have to take care of some of the things that, you know, others that we don't have people to take care of a particular job set. I think it's important that we know we can have people who have the knowledge, who have served the city, and can do that. Now, could there be some changes? Sure. But the report that was given to us by our interim city manager, which you have right to see that the report, the public report, show that we have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing what we have done. You know, even though there have been some questions about there being, you know, astronomical amount of monies given to different ones in different positions. But after he gave the report to us as a commission, and I've shared it with a number of people here of late, it showed where we have saved the city hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing what we did to make sure we can keep those who have particular skill sets throughout our city served. You want that report, I can make sure you get it. You can give me a call even after tonight. Let me know you want it. I'll make sure it's emailed to you from City Hall, given to us as a commission by our interim city manager, Tony Delgado. Thank you.
Well, it's already been said, so I'll just say I agree with Ricky on this one. I think this is something that the commission should take the leadership to change. This is an issue that's been brought to them several times. I know a lot of angry citizens who've been talking about it. Now, yes, it has saved us money. I've seen the report. But can you just imagine how much more money we could save if people weren't double dipping? It's just common sense. And the fact that citizens have brought this up and commissioners haven't really been active on it, they said, yes, it's an issue, but you know, we're looking at it. People want this fixed. And that's an old issue. I've seen this on the ledger more than 2 years ago. That was before I was even active in politics. So with that said, I think that's something that we should change. Thank you.
The next question from the NAACP, and I'm going to go back to the first question that I asked, and it was about job creation and workforce development in the community. And I believe I heard at least 2 of the candidates say they will work on incentives. Currently, we're not seeing that type of incentive in the core Northwest section. So if you're on the city commission, how are you going to change that so we can see the incentives in the core? And let me just kind of define the core. The core is going to be the inner city that's surrounding this building, Coleman Bush, spreading outward. Not the ones on the fringe coming in, but starting here with incentives to increase business and see businesses develop. I'll start with Mr. Walker.
Well, as I've already shared with you and will share again, the incentives are in place. We have to find those particular businesses or corporations that want to come and close and land themselves in what we call the core area. Now, they have different ones that seek out, you know, that situation. So, hey, why don't we do that? Why don't we make sure we can contact the different ones to make it happen? The jobs are not created by us at City Hall, but what we do, again, is provide the incentives to help those corporations or businesses that want to come to the area. If we want to do that, that's what we're going to plan. You know, we got the groups, the NAACP, others as well. You know, if you know corporations or businesses that want to land and put themselves in the core area, hey, I'm ready to talk about it. Let's do it. Let's make sure we can make that happen. But I think it's going to take, you know, people like those who own businesses or involved in business or even have those particular, you know, wherewithal to make sure you know these people to come to the table. And let's talk about it. It can happen. It can happen. The incentive's already there for you. The captain. We can do that. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez.
And when it comes to the Northwest District, I'm focusing on my incentive plan focuses on the entire city, but it does incorporate, of course, the Northwest District. And I do believe that the city should be a little more aggressive when it comes to its tax incentive programs. An idea that I've been flowing through my head. It's not finalized because I'm not on the city commission. Obviously, I can't change anything by myself. I have to actually get other commissioners to vote in line and to agree on something. But I do have an idea, and I believe that the city should start an incentive program similar to what the state is offering, which is basically an enterprise zone, but to incorporate the entire city into it. Now, what is the idea? Well, let's say you have an ordinance, which we're going to pass, and the ordinance states that if you are a small business that is opening up, after that ordinance is passed, you will be exempt from property taxes, you'll be exempt from the business license tax, and you'll be exempt from the sales tax for 3 years. Now, this is only for small startup businesses that are after the ordinance is passed, meaning this is tax revenue neutral. meaning that the businesses that open up under this incentive plan would be before the ordinance is passed. So if you think there's going to be an issue with revenues, not really. It's revenue neutral. Now, after we've got that part, why 3 years? Why give them an exemption? Well, it's quite simple. Anyone who's been around businesses enough, my family runs a chamber. I've been around them since 2007. I've been around multiple businesses, and I know their challenges and needs in this 21st century economy. When it comes down to it, most businesses will fail in their first year. Most businesses will fail in their first year. If they make it past their first year, a good number of them do not make it past the second year. Most of them won't even see a profit until 5 years. So if there's any way we can make it easier for them to do business, then we should do that. And one way to do that is to be aggressive with our tax incentive program. And to just wait for the state to do it or to say we already have those incentives is just not right. Thank you.
You know, we're going to have to do something about, AJ had mentioned it earlier, the impact fees. A friend of mine, Elliot Deutsch, opened up back when his dad was still alive before he got killed. It cost them close to $500,000 just in impact fees to build the motorcycle place over next to Lake Parker. That's just crazy. They fought it and they fought it and they finally just had to go with it. It's wrong. Sky Power Sports over next to me, they told me how they were going to get around it. They said, we're not going to do that. We're going to build a warehouse. And the impact fees are much less for a warehouse. So what they've done is they kept the warehouse open for 2 or 3 years now, and they have now remodeled it and turned it into a showroom. So they have found a way around it. The Brew Hub, this is in the Northwest community. They were offered and told, the owner of the place spoke to me one night and told me the incentives that he was told that he was going to get from Lakeland City government, only to find out they welched on him. Now, you can go to him and he will explain it all to you. But I'm thinking, wow, that's just not right. You know, we should have passed the public transportation with Tom Phillips program he had. That's going to be another thing that's critical for this area is public transportation. Certain time in the evenings, the buses quit running, period. And if you're working a 24-hour from 11 to 7 in the morning, you got to be able to get to work and you got to be able to get home. That's something that needs to be worked on. But I'm still saying that we need to offer incentives to bring people into this community as far as it be the impact fee. Now, getting with Department of Revenue, getting them to go along, good luck with that. Let me know how that works out for you. But they're not an easy group to work with. But, you know, let's do away with the commercial real estate tax. Why don't we get in this area and be able... Thank you.
Next question will come from the Gladys Leggett Neighborhood Association. Mr. Chastain.
Actually, they have been discussing my question somewhat. But I was watching the Million Man March program, and there was a lady came on the TV, and she said that the reason our young people are into crime so much is because of their background and job opportunities and education. And she pointed out that we have more and more jails, more and more policemen, and it hasn't made a big dent in the crime. And so I've been thinking about that ever since she made that speech. And what it says in so many words was that if you have jobs like they were when I first came to Lakeland in 1965, where you could work at the phosphate mine and make as much money as a school teacher, or pick oranges or strawberries and make slightly less. And these jobs were there for people who may not have been college students or college graduates. So my question really is two parts of that. If the root causes of crime has to do with job and education, where can you guys push something for education, number one, which is hard, but also second, you've been talking about jobs, is number two.
I believe Mr. Shire, I think you're up first this time.
Well, if I was on the commission, or you don't have to be on the commission, I went to a school board meeting, the last school board meeting, and Ms. Kay Fields is sitting in the back of the audience. As far as working with the school board to find out how you can, she works with the local schools, and the dropout rate in this area is a little higher than it is in some areas. But I'm gonna tell you, growing up, going back to crime, I was more afraid of my daddy than I was of any sheriff. Because if I did wrong, my daddy tore my butt out. And I think it gets back to parenting. My dad told me in the afternoon I had certain jobs that I had to do, and we done them. But the education part of it is very crucial. God, the older I get, the smarter my mom and dad was. God, I wish I would have listened to them. But that's the way it is. Life is what you make out of it. But that's the reason I say I want to see my grandchildren grow up in this community and have the greatest education they can, and want to stay here and want to continue living the rest of their lives and raise their children here. So in this community, I don't know if I'm answering your question the way you want me to or not, but the jobs are very important to keep kids out of crime, but I think it's got a lot to do with parenting. Like I said, in the afternoons, I reported home. I knew what I had to do because I had a list, and if I got my jobs done, I could go out and mess around a little bit. But it is parenting. And as far as education, it's priceless. Like I said, I wish I'd have listened to Mom and Dad. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez, I appreciate you being ready.
I thought it was going that way, I'm sorry.
The woman you were talking about, sir, was absolutely right. The reason that dumping more money in law enforcement and in more jails doesn't necessarily work is because it suppresses the crime. It doesn't necessarily prevent the crime. It's a reactionary policy. It's not a proactive policy. As a city commissioner, there's not much I can do, unfortunately, to help education, except by getting involved in the community and making sure that I can get as many people around my age group and younger to get involved in their education. But when it comes to economic development as a commissioner, there are a lot of tools at my disposal that I can fight for, not that I can actually do myself. Of course, I have to get the other commissioners to vote along those lines. But there are things that I could fight for, policies, movements, that can better Lakeland's economic development. There's several things that certain communities here in the city of Lakeland are fighting for. Gigabit Lakeland's one great economic opportunity for our city. I stand for it. The city is moving forward with research for it. But I just want to say that we need somebody who's dynamic and somebody who says we need to do this. It's not should be whether an if or not, but it should be we need to do this. I don't care if it's public, private, or public utility, as long as it gets done. There's Ignite Lakeland to further develop the downtown area to further help our economy. There's, of course, the business incentive plan that I've got flowing out there on my website. There are many things we could do, and it all comes down to economic development, which is why my platform focuses on it. Because if people don't see that economic opportunity, they're more likely to join gangs, especially if they come from a less, an impoverished area. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Walker.
Thank you. Well, one of the things I think was important that we should know what really happened with some of the things that we did with the suppression element of the gang task force that we created was also to have initiatives in place, and which was preventive situations in place as well. And one of the key things that happened out of that was the early warning system that came about when we partnered with Polk County School Board and United Way, funding the of course monies to get a particular pilot program going in our middle schools. And that one middle school that has happened with is Kathleen, and of course we've seen successes from that, and seen where if you have what we call the ABC formula, where you see children who have been absent, those who have behavioral problems, those who have not on task with school subjects and curriculum. The early warning system does just that. It makes sure that you know who these children are and can identify with them to help capture some challenges that may be happening before they may get involved with a situation called a gang member or being recruited to become a gang member. And that's going on right now, of course. And I'm happy that we were able to get that particular initiative going for preventive situations for our young people. Now also, if you recall, you know, and I'm sure I see neighborhood leaders around the room here, especially so, we still have what we call a program where the city of Lakeland provides, you know, some youth dollars, especially for during the summertime when young folk are out and things are going on. They can help support them getting jobs. Partnering also with private businesses to help create, you know, additional jobs that will help to support them for job creation and getting jobs as well. Of course, I worked with that initiative some years ago until we turned it over to the NAC. And NAC now, of course, captured that particular initiative and run with that, as, you know, as we dealt with it myself and Commissioner Salvage. So I know there's things that can be done and will continue to be done if we can help bring about, you know, jobs for our young people. Thank you.
I'm going to deviate a little bit here, and there's an email I received. Recently, the City Commission completed its budgeting process. A lot has been written about what was done. We are interested in taking a look forward. If you're elected, what are your top 3 priorities for Northwest Lakeland? Will you make accommodations for the next year's budget? And how will you get support for the majority of the commission for its approval? So what are your top 3 priorities for Northwest Lakeland going forward? Mr. Rodriguez, I think you're up.
As far as the Northwest goes, I would say the first priority is, of course, economic development. I feel that the Northwest District has been, it hasn't garnered the same attention that the southern districts have, or that the downtown area has when it comes to economic development. The second issue that I would focus on is, of course, gang violence. It's a little more prevalent here in the northern districts, not just the Northwest. And last but not least, when it comes to the third and final issue is, once again, just having proper leadership. We had a fire assessment fee, fire impact fee that was voted on, and I know notoriously our district was against it. It was not only in public at City Hall, but there were there was plenty of buzz on the internet that people said, we don't want this. We want you guys to look for another solution. And we have an incumbent currently that voted for that $8 million tax increase. So the third issue I hope to fix will be to have a commissioner who does have his finger on the pulse of the community and is willing to listen to what the community wants, and will be there for them 24/7. And that's what I offer as a commissioner. Thank you.
I'd have to agree with AJ as far as economic development in this area. Interstate Drive in that area is part of our Northwest corridor. And this is something that, because I-4, we're in the I-4 corridor, the Northwest area. I mean, what a better place to locate a business where the interstate's right down the road where you can locate a business and work transportation. It goes back to incentives. I think we're going to have to offer the right incentives to business to be able to come into the area. That's one of the things I would want to work on, leadership. I think that is a must. Leadership is being able to work with yourself and 3 other commissioners to get things done. We don't want to sit there and hear the rhetoric back and forth as far as, no, the agenda, most everything happens on Friday on the agenda study. Then it's voted on to come Monday, and they give out the awards. And, you know, I watched the city commission meeting on the internet, and I'm thinking, what in the world are they thinking? And I'm thinking, goodness gracious. That's one reason I decided to get involved and run again, because I do care what happens. Public transportation, that's another thing I had mentioned earlier. I think that's something that we need to find a way to partner with Tom Phillips and Ms. Killebrew that's working with him now for this area to make sure that it has the proper public transportation. I know it stops at a certain time, but doggone it, it seems like they could work out something and make it a little easier for people to be able to get jobs, to get back and forth to work, and to be able to get home. Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
As mentioned in most of my material, and I have my material back in the back there if you care to get a copy of my particular platforms. Number one, of course, is to make sure we have maintained a quality of life here in our city for all people, especially those that I represent here in the Northwest District. You know, focusing on those those initiatives that can help support the kind of lifestyle that we all can come to appreciate that we even have here in our city. That's number one. Number two, of course, to continue to support initiatives or help promote job creation as a economic development kind of a situation for all of our people, especially how we partner with organizations that would bring about jobs here and businesses here to help create jobs for our city. That would be my second kind of issue, I guess you call second thing to be done here in our city. And lastly, of course, I will continue to work as I'm working now with the situation regarding our youth and trying to support programs that will continue to get our youth involved with becoming self-supporting citizens in Lakeland. We were able to get the Lake Ridge Center, as you just know, just recently, Lake Ridge Center became the PAL Center because PAL was outgrowing that particular spot at Simpson Park. And as we were able to get that particular building back in our hands, and now we have a place where more children can be attended to, more mentoring can be done, more out of school programs can be done to help support our youth and becoming, of course, more supportive and self-supporting citizens in our society. Also, as well, we deal with the youth again. We have, of course, the PAL program, and we partner with other organizations that provide programs to our young people throughout this particular area, especially so with down at Simpson Park and Girls Inc. and Boys and Girls Club. So we'll continue to work with those particular organizations to help support what we can to provide dollars. Now, it's been mentioned that I voted for that $8 million situation. I'm going to explain it to you in my closing, okay?
It's now time for the Paulie Diggs. Did I miss them? Paulie Diggs. What's that?
Last question. About 3 commissioner meetings ago, I think it was in August, the commissioners voted in favor of themselves instead of the safety of the general population. The commissioners voted down the request for 2 additional police officers. In that same session, voted in favor of their pay increase. Do you think that the timing was fair?
Mr. Walker, I think you're up to bat.
Well, I don't recall us voting down 2 positions. I know it was brought to us, of course, in this budget year to, the chief had asked for, 6 positions as he asked for. 4, of course, would be, for the various quadrants in our city, the northwest, northeast, southeast, southwest, so we can bring about what we call community policing again that went away somewhere around 2007. So I don't recall now us voting down 2 positions. Now, I may be wrong, and I stand corrected. I don't mind standing corrected. But then, of course, in addition to those 4 positions, also you have the 2 additional positions, that we need for as detectives and the like, and making sure they can process, different things in the police department. So I know we just voted that to make sure we had it part of our budget. So I'm kind of confused about we voted down 2 positions. I'm not aware of that at all. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the second part of that question. Oh, about our increase, okay? Cost of living increases is given to all of the actual employees of our city, as you're all aware. We did the ATB across the board, as well as increase as well for them as far as your merit increase. That was approved as well during this budget year. Now, because we as city commissioners only can vote, of course, whatever we get as far as salaries are concerned, we did vote by popular vote, all 7 of us, I believe. I may be wrong, might be 6-1, might be 6-1, that we would get what we call the meet across the board kind of increase that the other employees of the city got as well. And now, of course, that's what happened as far as that increase is concerned. Now, to kind of say why we did that and not increase and get 2 police officers that got decreased, I don't know anything about that. I need someone to help me with that one, because I don't think we did that.
Mr. Rodriguez?
When I spoke to Chief Larry Giddens, he told me that he had asked for additional officers and that the commission did vote in favor to give him officers. When it comes to this particular issue, I personally also do not remember any positions being turned down. But when it comes to the pay increase, again, that's not an issue that I've really focused on. I don't think it's a major issue that Lakeland is facing at the moment. But I'm going to be just frank and honest. Those are two issues that I never heard of two office positions being turned down. And the pay increase, as far as I'm concerned, is not an issue that I have been focusing on in my platform. Thank you.
I believe what happened is when the fire assessment fee or tax, however you want to call it, was turned down, Larry was not going to be able to get the 6 officers that he wanted. He told me that himself. But when they put the 19% tax increase burden upon the citizens of Lakeland, well, there you go, how sweet it is. Now we can afford to get these 6 extra police officers, and we've got money for this and that, and just write a blank check. But as far as the pay increase, I personally feel like if you're a commissioner, you shouldn't receive a dime. You should do it because you want to do it from here for the people of Lakeland. It's not enough to even, Philip would tell you, I mean, I honestly feel he doesn't do it for the money. But I do feel like that a commissioner, if you're elected, you're doing it because you have a desire. That's the reason I have run many times. I want to serve. I want to be someone. I have a desire. And if I didn't have a desire, I wouldn't be up here tonight. I want to serve each and every one of you. And something keeps telling me, don't give up. Because my granddaddy said, if you ever give up, you're beat no matter what you're doing. So no, I don't recall them giving themselves the pay raise. But I myself, if it's a cost of living raise, it couldn't have been much. But I myself, there again, I do it for nothing. Thank you.
We're at the point where we're going to ask for audience participation. I will ask you to raise your hand. I will try to recognize you. I will try to be fair with recognizing you. So if I miss you and your hand was up, please forgive me in advance. This young man has been raising his hand.
Yes, sir.
Tell us who you are.
Rusty Boddicker. I have a statement, a quick statement for Commissioner Walker, and then I have a question. Everybody's talking about this fire fee. Just so the people here understand what it meant, there was approximately going to cost the paperwork I was sent by the city was $250 to $300 per unit. I have low-income families, and I have about 70 of them. None of them could have afforded for me to raise their rent $50 a month. I sit there and argue because I guarantee you as the landowner, I'm not paying it. I'm passing it on to the residents. But I did everything I could to fight it. And thank God it failed. The $300 on a low-income person that owns a property in the Northwest District, if your assessed value is $25,000, you're paying $0 in property taxes. They assess you a $250 to $300 fire fee. That represents 10 to 12 millage points on your property, and you have no choice. So therefore, the question, and I gave all this information to the commission prior to me speaking. The question I have for Commissioner Walker, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't screw it up. Everyone knows you voted for the fire fee. The question is, was it to appease your fellow Southside Republicans, or was it to help lower income families in the Northwest District? Because it appears you only come around here when you want to be reelected.
I'm trying to make sure I craft my words the right way in answering your question, Rusty, but I think you know that is not true. I don't come around here when I'm just wanting to be elected.
Okay.
I'm up and down these streets every day of my life. So that was wrong. And I call you out for that. You are wrong. Okay? And I would say majority of people who are in this room see me pretty much on an almost, if not weekly basis, almost sometimes daily basis.
Okay.
Now, you're correct by saying I did vote for the fire assessment fee. But let me explain that since my competition, opposition, saying what I did. And that's all they continue to say about that. But what have they done to make sure this district still have a good representation at City Hall or even work in the neighborhood? Now, at the time of the fire assessment fee discussion, I don't know how much time I got, but it's going to take longer to get through that.
You're about up.
Well, you want to know why I did it? I got to explain it. If you want me to tell you. Now, if you want me to tell you or not, I won't tell you, but I'm trying to tell it. It was because at the time the fire assessment fee discussion came up, I, along with Jim Molest, were the only two that said don't carry it forth. We voted against it. But you didn't hear about that.
Time. We need to get that answer in within 1 minute, please. Okay, I started, where did I see it? Ms. Fields.
This is for each of the gentlemen here. Being an elected official is not easy, but I would like to know what core values will you take on the city commission? And Mr. Walker, what core values do you have in place as a city commissioner? Y'all understand my question? Your core values.
You asking me that?
All three.
Okay,
But I
where do
wanna
we
make
start?
sure. These two men are not on the city commission. You are. So what core values do you currently take with you on the city commission? And then you two gentlemen, what will you take if you are elected to serve as a city commissioner?
Mr. Walker.
Thank you. As far as my core values are concerned, I think many of you all know, in my respective position, I'm an elder in my church, and I serve in that position as well at my church, Christ Community Christian Center, as associate pastor as well. So I believe in those values when it comes to family values, making sure that families are taken care of and families are sought after. My wife is in the audience. Thank you for coming, honey. And we have, of course, one son that still lives with us at home who's age 15. So my core values will still be making sure that you raise families as it should be. I never knew my father. I was born and raised in Washington Park Homes. Between Washington Park Homes, for those that know what Washington Park Homes used to look like before we got, the whole $6 that came through, for renovation and reclamation of that particular property. Then we moved to Lincoln Square, or Lincoln Court, as we called back then. So I grew up without knowing a father, but I had those mentors, those men in my lives that would, support us. And I've been a mentor for a number of children in this city, and as well as particular area, especially so. And I will continue to do just that.
Let me remind you, 1 minute on your answers, please. I believe the young lady in the black, is it?
That was
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. The other two. Find out who it was.
I'm a Christian. My core values is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And there again, if I'm elected, that's what I want to do for the citizens of Lakeland. Not just the Northwest. Northwest is treated different than the South Side. I know that. You know that. But if you treat people like you want to be treated and do the right thing, and it comes from here, and you're working with the man upstairs, things are going to be done right. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez.
When it comes to core values, what I bring to the table is quite simply passion and devotion for the city that I love. I came down here as really an outsider. As a child, I moved around a lot, and this is the town that I've learned to not only love, but this is the town that I call home. And so as a commissioner, you'll have someone who not only is devoted, but is completely passionate. This is something that I've loved ever since I've been in high school, which is public service, which is why I work with my family at the Puerto Rican Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Polk County to represent the fastest growing demographic in the nation. But it's not just that demographic. We do a lot of things for all demographics. We have charitable runs to give toys, for example, on 3 Kings Day and during Christmas. We have events to not only represent small businesses, but to give to the community and to give scholarships to our community. So that's the act of service is something that I've been raised on. And the reason I've been raised on this is because, at least in my family, and I know this is something that we all believe in, is that the best way to serve God is to serve thy fellow man. And that's what I was raised believing. Thank you.
I'm counting on the NAACP Secretary, Ms. Hollyburn, to help me out with recognizing hands. Ms. McShay,
Yes.
please.
Okay. Let's say, good afternoon, fellas.
Good evening.
Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Let's say all things are equal. I'd like for you to give us one reason you think we should vote for you. All things are equal, but why should I vote for you, AJ? Why should I vote for you, Philip? And Sharon, why should I vote for you? What would you tell the person so that they would vote for you?
Mr. Rodriguez, you're up first.
Well, if you share the same vision and the same dream that I have for Lakeland, which is to leave a better Lakeland behind, not just for us, but for our posterity, that if you believe Lakeland has latent qualities, a hidden potential that is untapped by the leadership of the commission and of the leadership of the City Hall, if you believe all of that, if you want to see what's best for Lakeland, and if you have a passion for this city, I would urge you to vote for me. Not just because I've done a lot of things for my community or because I have a shiny resume, but I would urge you to vote for me because I have one thing that the City Commission has been lacking in these couple of years, and that is an intense heart for the city, passion and devotion, and that's what I promise to bring. I'm not going to promise to all of you that I'm going to be the most perfect commissioner. I'm not going to say, oh, look at what I've done. But what I will do is do my very best to make sure your voices are heard. If you all think something should be changed, I will try my very best to do it. I'm not going to say I was against it before I voted for it. I'm not going to make excuses. I will do my best, though, to make sure your voices are heard. Thank you.
Mr. Shower.
I'm glad you asked that question because all things aren't equal. We all know that. October 15th, the Lakeland R Women's Club had a meeting where I was the one who was excluded. I was not invited because I had a D next to my name, as probably 90% of you do in this room. You wouldn't have been invited either. That's the way I see it. That's discrimination at its finest. It's supposed to be a non-partisan race, but they have made it partisan. And I'm thinking, why? I mean, it doesn't matter what party you belong to. It's about doing the right thing. So, yeah, I would love to see everything equal, but that's not the way it is. You just gonna have to deal with each situation as it come along. Was I heard about it? Yes, I was a little upset about it at first, and I'm thinking, well, I was discriminated against. But then I'm thinking, the crowd that I'm talking to tonight, y'all have been discriminated against your whole life. I have a friend of mine, one of my best friends, he told me a story.
That was here later.
Mr. Walker.
Well, I think because of being a business owner, that I've owned a business and started from scratch with 0 clients to well over now having about 700 plus households that I insure or make sure they have availability when it comes to various kinds of insurance products. That alone, you can share with, I think, many people that I've been a successful businessman for 25 plus years, starting with, again, like I said, nothing. And now, of course, 25 years later, having this particular small business in this community has a proven track record of, making sure I understand how to run business. I have employees, I take care of employees' taxes, I pay taxes. I also, take care of their payrolls and the like. So I think that's one of the qualities I have to say that's pretty much stand above all, that I have ran a business. I know what business is all about. And of course, doing that has been very successful. And I think that alone will surely let you know who I am and what I'm about.
This young lady right here, please.
Good evening, everyone.
My question is to, of course, all three candidates. The young man sitting there in front of us is the millennial. And you know that millennials are the fastest growing demographic for us. I'm a baby boomer. Who are baby boomers here? Raise your hands. A lot of us. And what do we depend on? What are we looking towards the future? Millennials. They're the ones that are going to develop what's going to be the shining star of this I-4. What I'd like to know is from our three candidates is how are we developing that hidden jewel? And how are we going to develop that jewel?
Mr. Shower, I believe you're up first.
I know you've raised a great son here, because I have talked to him, and I'm sure you're very proud of him, as I am my children. I have 4 of the greatest children in the world. They have raised my grandchildren, and you're right. They're our future. I'm standing up here for my grandchildren. If I'm on the commission, I'm thinking about my grandchildren, how their future is for Lakeland. I want to see them grow up. I want to see them continue living in this community, going to Pope Polytechnic, or who knows what university is going to be built by them. But you're right. They're our future. They're our asset, and we have to do things to protect them and make sure that we have a great community. And they are the future. You're right. Thank you.
Mr. Walker?
I think it's important that we reach out to our younger generation, as you referenced, Ms. Rivera, millennials, to make sure they get involved with our city government. You can join and become members of the various boards and committees that we have throughout the city. So we have to let them know that there are positions, there are boards, there are committees that you can serve in to be active in the city and get to know what's going on in your city. And it's going to take us. We have to be the ones to go and make sure that they're aware of it and make sure they know what's going on here in our city. Secondly, there are other organizations that are involved in our city to help support, making sure our young professionals are becoming in tune with what's going on. Emerge Lakeland is one. Emerge Serves. And I know I've recruited a number of people to say, get involved. Make sure you go through this particular program to know, so you would know what it takes to even serve on a board, what you need to have qualification-wise to how to act, and conduct yourself to know how to, produce and be able to serve throughout the city. So that's what I will continue to do. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez? In terms of getting my generation to get more involved and to keep them here in Lakeland, it's going to take a lot more than just reaching out and saying, hey, you can serve at that board and you can see what it's like to get involved. They need to feel like Lakeland's a place that they can build a future for themselves. And to be quite frankly honest, my generation does not feel that way about the city of Lakeland. I personally see Lakeland as a place that it can be that place for millennials. It can be the next shining jewel of the I-4 corridor. But what it's going to take a bold leader, and it's going to take somebody who's not just going to say, hey, go over there and you can find out how to get involved. We need to get them invigorated to live here in Lakeland. And that's why I support Gigabit Lakeland. That's why I support Ignite Lakeland. That's why I support more economic growth. Because really, when it all comes down to it, we also want incomes. We also want jobs. We also want opportunity. And to be frank about it, Lakeland, it has made strides, but there's so much more Lakeland can do. The business owners of Lakeland say this, that we could do so much more. So if you want to get millennials more involved, if you want them to stay here in Lakeland, economic development is the best way to go, and it's better to have somebody in office who can invigorate them to stay. Thank you.
I'll say it. 2 to 3 of you have economic development as your #1 priority. And I've heard you talk about incentives. So specifically, and we've already talked about millennials staying here. And Mr. Shire talked about young people going away to college and out of state and not coming back here. So how would you, what would you do to this beyond incentives specifically to get businesses to move to Lakeland? What would you tell them to sell them on coming here?
Let's see, who's up first? Mr. Walker?
Well, as a result of the structure of how city government runs, and I'm sure you're probably aware of that, Mr. Coney, and others, of course, we, of course, we work with those people in the particular department heads to make sure they can reach out. So again, I think what we've done with the community development department being reorganized, and now have what we call a business manager that can go out and help support, businesses that want to come to Lakeland, whether it be small business owners or the large conglomerates. I think that's what we can continue to do to make sure that's done, to help create, so they will be able to create jobs. Yeah, the tax incentives are the ones that help, bring about, the things to make sure they want to come here. But I think it'll be also important that we allow that person, to go out and, be able to support those that want to come, reach out to those that want to come and be a part of Lakeland and our great community we have here.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Can you repeat the question verbatim, please, sir?
The question was, and I guess it's twofold. You have young people that go off to college, and you have 3 universities here, New one, Florida Polytechnic, and then you want businesses to come to Lakeland. So how do you convince the young people that have college degrees to come back to Lakeland? And what do you tell, how do you sell businesses beyond the incentives? Everybody's offering incentives. So what do you tell them to sell them on Lakeland? For the young people to come back here that want to come back here, convince them to come back. And for businesses that want to set up business here, whether it's small or a large business.
Okay, that's an excellent question. Well, when it comes to getting the youth to come here, what they really need is to see further economic development of Lakeland. That's really what they want. They want living downtown. They want more jobs for them that are tailored for their age group. You're not going to convince them to say, hey, this is a great place to live at if you can't get a job here or build something here. So as far as incentivizing the youth to come here, that's something that we're going to have to address, and that's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not as easy to just convince them. Now, when it comes to small businesses, you say that everyone does incentives. When it comes to incentives, we want to stand out. We already have we can tell current business owners, hey, we have some of the lowest tax rates in the state. We have some of the lowest electric rates in the state. We have a great area to live in, family values, a great place for small businesses to build itself. And in that sector, I believe the city hall could do a little better to be more aggressive. And as a commissioner, I would definitely be as aggressive as I can and make sure that we can make Lakeland look better. Thank you.
I personally would love to see my grandchildren never leave this community. I'd love to see them go to the universities that's here to get their degrees and want to stay here and have jobs. I have 3 children that work at Publix supermarkets, greatest supermarket on earth. One's a school teacher. She left Publix to become a school teacher because that was her passion. She worked at Kathleen Middle School, and a gang member hit her in the back of the head, and she called me crying, and I was headed out there to get myself in trouble until Mr. Butler intervened and said, I'll take care of the problem. But now she teaches at Seth McKeel, and she thinks it's roses, greatest job that ever happened. But having, you see these commercials on TV, start up New York, 10 years. I'm thinking, my goodness, maybe I need to move to New York. We need to sell Lakeland. We as a commissioner and with working partner with the Chamber of Commerce and partner with the neighborhood groups, we need to all work together and
I see someone in here, lady.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, everyone has pretty much asked every single question I wanted to ask. And I just wanted to pretty much tell all 3 gentlemen that, you all have great views. And I applaud you for that. Also, sorry, by the way, my name is DJ Delgado. And my thing is I moved to Lakeland actually by accident, thanks to the United States Navy, who transferred me to Special Operations at MacDill Air Force Base. And this is an outstanding town to raise children. I live on the northwest side, on the Kathleen area, and I love it, and I've seen it grown. However, I've also seen the crime grow. And it kind of saddens me because now my boys, they don't want to stay in Lakeland. One is heading to the Naval Academy, the other one is heading to UF. And even though one of them is still staying in Florida, he says he doesn't see a future in Florida, and especially in Lakeland. And I don't see it that way. And I would like to ask you three, pretty much, again, what kind of incentives, especially when it comes to not only jobs, but even the education, the children that are growing now that have nowhere to go, so they join gangs because there's no thing for them to do. These parents that can't afford, the YMCA, or because they're in Powell, they have to pay a $200 fee for their children to go, but because they're low income, they can't afford it. Like Mr. Rusty said, I have tenants that sometimes can't pay me the rent because they don't have a job. What would you do to help those type of people to get involved into the city? Because Mr. Walker says there's this thing that they could join this. How are you telling these children? Because you could go to CFAA, which is one of the best high schools in Lakeland, and ask them, do you know about this board? Do you know about that board? Do you know about this? And they will tell you no, because I have asked. And they don't. So how are you telling these teenagers, these high school students, these middle school students that, now even you got gangs in Kathleen Middle, which you didn't have when my boys went to Kathleen Middle. How are you telling these young children, or how would you tell these young children, this is what you could do instead of being a gang, because I haven't seen it.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I'm sorry to hear that's how your son feels about Lakeland, but I will be quite honest, before I got involved in politics in Lakeland, that's what I felt when I was in Harrison. I said, what is there to do in Lakeland besides either just get a minimum wage job or get a job that I wouldn't be happy with? And I think that's where we have to have a little more economic focus on bringing a more wider diversity of jobs into the area. But when it comes to actually communicating with the youth of this city, we have to accept that the youth may not always be receptive, but that shouldn't deter us from going as hard as we can to reach them. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a big advocate of social media for commissions to communicate on. I know the two gentlemen next to me, they do have Facebook pages, but they're usually only active during election times. As a commissioner, I will promise to all of you, I will be active 24/7 on every social media. I will go to the schools on government week to make sure that they know that there's a commissioner out there who's communicating with them. Thank you. Charles?
I think it goes back to you being the millennium. My 5-year-old grandson is probably on Facebook and can do more on a telephone and iPad than I ever thought I could ever do. So I applaud you for that. That is the future. But you're right. I don't, because once you post things to Facebook, they're there, and I don't do it. I do it when you're running for office. You have to, but I like to read Facebook. I keep up with it. But as far as I've served on the SAC committee at Kathleen Middle School. I've served on the SAC committee at Kathleen Senior High. And we beg people for mentors to come out, help a kid. When Rodriguez was, Senor Alvarez was the principal, that's what I call him. Many years ago, I walked by at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and he's mentoring to this young black man and teaching him how to read. And you don't know how much that affected me, just a principal. And they're begging for people like you that can get involved and come out to Kathleen Middle School and say, what can I do to help? Kathleen Senior High, what can I do to help? Get involved in the community. Thank you.
Point to your question, ma'am, is that it's unfortunate that situations occurred regarding what's happening in the Kathleen area, and it's unfortunate that we cannot grasp that because it's outside the city. As far as our gang task force team is concerned, we have SROs at all our schools in the city. So we do have SROs, that work with the children and the youth in the schools and in our city. Now, of course, the sheriff's department have what they call the SDOs, I guess. Sheriff's department have their resource officers as well. But I can't explain that program because I don't hear about it as much. But with one we do have, I know we have a great program that they have instituted back in the schools again to help support, situations for our young children that may be, again, leaning toward gang violence, that kind of thing. Again, those schools that are in the city. And I would encourage you, if you have a challenge with what's going on in the Kathleen area of the city, give them a call. Give the sheriff's department a call. Maybe you've already done it, I don't know. But
This is the last question I'm taking before the candidates close. If they close quickly enough, I might be able to entertain one more question, because now I'm on the clock. Yes, sir.
I've got two questions. One is for Mr. Rodriguez, and the other one is for Mr.
I'm going to give you one question.
Oh,
You take your pick.
Okay, fair enough. I would like to give Mr. Walker a chance to finish his rebuttal to the fire fee as to why, because he wasn't able to. That would be my question.
thank you, sir. Again, as I was sharing with you, when the fire assessment fee discussion came about, then of course we were asked about how we should go about, to help support the revenues that we found was a shortfall in our budget for fiscal year 16. I shared with them the way we normally do it and the way it has been done, and what I've been, shared with in my tenure on the dais is we look at property tax situations and property assessment situation. That's the way it's been done down through the years. So when the talk or discussion came about and was led by one of my fellow colleagues to move toward the fire assessment fee, well, I was in the minority. When you have two, I guess, of course, the other five that said let's move toward that way and directed a city manager to do that. So that's when you had the discussions come about throughout the city about fire assessment fee and those kind of things. Now, mind you, remember, when the fire assessment fee was given and was shared with what percentage it would be, it was done at the highest you could have. So that's why you had that number you had, Mr. Barker, because it was done at that. We didn't vote for that.
Mr. Walker?
Oh, I thought you told me to go ahead and explain it. I'm sorry.
No, I got it.
Still only get a minute. I told you it'd take a long time to explain it.
Mr. Walker, I know you're tired, but because you was last when we started the first round, you are first this time in your closing statements. Would you like to rest your voice, or would you like to go ahead?
I'll go ahead.
How much time do they have?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, please.
Thank you again for this opportunity to come out and be able to share, as we've done with you all, about who we are and what we are and why we think you should vote for us. I said it earlier and I say it again. I think I've proven myself to serve, especially so this particular district, in doing what I've done to bring and bridge a community that have felt some kind of disconnect and becoming the ear gate for them through what I would say being available on their quarterly basis when I go around the city the district area here in our city to talk with different groups about what's going on, the issues they have, the concerns they may have. I made myself available for that. And I think if you look at it and honestly say, has he done that? You will say yes. And I will continue to do just that. I will not falter. I will not sway. Not that they won't agree with why I vote or how I should vote, but one thing about it, I will say I do what I think is best for all citizens in our city. And to represent this particular district as best I can, especially so being who I am, the representative for the Northwest District. I'm the only one that received 3 endorsements for this campaign time. Business Voice, the political arm of the Lakeland Area Chamber of Commerce. I received that endorsement. I received the endorsement of the Lakeland Electric and water utility workers. I received the endorsement of the law enforcement, Lakeland Police Department. And I'm hoping I'll receive another one before the week is out as we interview with the Lakeland Realtors Association. So I think that speaks volumes for who I am and what I've done and what I will continue to do to represent you as a city commissioner, not only for Northwest Lakeland especially so, but the city of Lakeland as a whole. I ask you for your vote. I expect your vote. And I look for your vote on come next Tuesday, November 3rd, as we continue to be your city commissioner for the Northwest District, City of Lakeland. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for having me here today to speak in front of this marvelous crowd. And I just want to say I've had a blast campaigning with these two gentlemen for the same seat over the past couple of months. It's been quite the ride. It's been quite the experience. I've met a lot of wonderful people during these few months, which just went by in a flash. But at the end of it all, if you have a vision for Lakeland that you and I share, I think I'm the one you want to vote for. Now, I haven't been on this earth as long as these two gentlemen have. I don't have the shiniest resume to offer. But when you vote for me, you'll be able to rest assured knowing that you're not going to have someone who's going to say I was against it before I was for it. We can say all the explanations we want. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be the commissioner that does what he thinks is right. I want to be the commissioner who does what the people tell me to do, because that's what my job description says. It's in the dictionary. Representative government. So when the people say we don't want you to do this, even if I think it's right, I will find another way. I won't try to shove it down your throat, and I won't make excuses later and say, hey, I was against it before I voted for it. And I'll be openly honest with you when I believe in something and when I don't. And I will be available 24/7. Because this is something that I have a passion for, and I will be devoted, because that's not what only you deserve, but that's what you expect of a city commissioner. Thank you for having me, and God bless.
Well, I think each and every one of you know that I have a passion to serve the public. Yeah, it hurt my feelings when I wasn't invited to the art club, but I got over it in a hurry because I realize you're my people, and we make the difference. You know, we get blamed for everything. You know that, but we do make the difference. I'm very passionate about what I do. Look at me. I do not owe any special interest anything. I owe you. If I'm elected, you're the person I'm going to be looking out for. Special interests give. Look at the financial. When much is received, much is expected. As Donald Trump said, as a Republican, when he was talking about the money he gives away, he expects, because he gave to the Democrats, he gave to the Republicans, and he says, yeah, they say no, and he says, yeah, I would have got it. I would have got it. And he's right. He would have. But trust me when I say this. I don't know any special interest, anything. The only person I owe is the citizens of Lakeland. Being a commissioner from the Northwest District, naturally I'm going to look after that district first. And Lakeland is our community. Like I said before, I grew up here. I don't know any better. This is paradise. This is my home. This is my community. And I love it. And I want the opportunity. I'm asking your vote. I'm not demanding your vote. I'm asking for your vote November 3rd. Thank you.
Would any of the sponsors like to have a closing word? Hearing none, I would like to thank each of you for coming out. I'd love to thank the candidates. Let's give them a round of applause. Good evening.
This ends the broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We'll try to get it posted on the website either later tonight or first thing in the morning. Thank you. Good night.